Smaller, faster and smarter. That's how West Midlands Police say they will look, feel and operate by 2020 as it deals with budget cuts. Under plans announced today, the force will lose a total of 2,500 officers and backroom staff. It'll bring the number of staff working there to around 8,000. West Midlands Police has to save £130 million over the next 4 years. Well, in a moment, I'll be speaking to the Chief Constable, Chris Sims. But first, Joanne Riddle reports on what will be changing.
Sure, if you go straight down the street here.
Expect to see more of these. Some police officers in the centre of Birmingham already wear cameras on their uniforms. Pilots are going on elsewhere, and the plan is to roll them out across the West Midlands. Just one part of a so-called new era of policing outlined the Police and Crime Commissioners Board today, all against a backdrop of £130 million of cuts and 2,500 police and backroom staff job cuts over the next 5 years.
What we are doing is looking very closely at all the operations that the police do to make it more efficient and use new technology to make sure that the public are protected. It's going to be tough, it's going to be difficult, but we are determined that that's what we're going to do.
The Chief Constable says new ways of working and embracing the modern world, including allowing the public to track a crime report online, means they can deliver.
So a lot of the work that we're talking about today is about putting more emphasis on prevention rather than dealing with symptoms, speeding up the way that we respond to incidents and resolve incidents, and of course using a digital presence to create better engagement with the public.
More than 80% of the force's costs are on staff. Austerity cuts past and future are tough. 4 years ago, 13,500 police officers and backroom staff were employed by the West Midlands Force. By 2020, that will have reduced to 8,000. The Shadow Police Minister gave a measured response.
It's right the police think ahead. For example, you're more likely now to be mugged online than you are in the street. But the public of the West Midlands will be rightly concerned that the consequences of the biggest cuts since the war will see neighbourhood policing diminished in many parts of the West Midlands.
Tonight, the Home Office said recorded crime is down by 17% in the West Midlands. A spokesman said police reform is working. Joanne Riddle, BBC Midlands Today, Birmingham.
I'm joined now by the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Chris Sims. Good evening.
Good evening.
So 2,500 staff to go. How many of that 2,500 will be police officers?
Well, that's work that we have to do over the next few years, because I think we are probably the first public agency in the West Midlands to go forward with a 5-year plan that takes us through to the second part of austerity. So these are plans that will not be seen immediately, but will come to pass after we've done an awful lot more work with our partner Accenture, who is supporting our efforts.
Right. You mentioned your partner Accenture working with that private sector business, that consultancy. 5-year deal estimated to be costing £25 million, according to their website. Some people might be surprised that you're spending £25 million working with a private sector business when you have to save £130 million.
Sure. And that's the money that will help us fund the technology that is going to drive the new way of working that is critical. We've been through 5 difficult years of austerity. We've made lots and lots of efficiency gains, but looking forward, if we're going to protect the people of the West Midlands in the way that I want to, we have to fundamentally change the way we work.
OK, can we just talk a little bit about that and what it's going to look like? I mean, you've released this blueprint outlining some of the changes, and it talks about empowering victims and witnesses to self-serve. What does that mean in plain English?
Yes, so part of what we're going to do is to produce a massively improved digital platform for the West Midlands Police. So we anticipate that 5 years' time, more and more people will be wanting to access us online rather than directly in person. We want to have a really important and special offer that we give people. We want to be able to pass information to them, to receive opinions, to receive photographs that they may have taken of crimes, but ultimately to get to a point where you can go online to report a crime, to transact the normal business that you would with us at the moment.
And what about those members of the public, a not insignificant number, who don't have access to online or don't have any trust in online? What about them? How are they being served?
Yep, so this isn't about abandoning conventional policing or conventional communication, but I think we have to think 5 years' time. I mean, think 5 years back and the world technologically was very different. 5 years' time it will have moved forward very quickly as well.
But there will still be quite a significant number of people that don't want to access online.
Birmingham is the youngest city in Europe, and it's young people that are the big adopters, and we have to offer that service to people in the future.
And just finally, briefly, if you would, you've already had face cuts of £125 million, now a further £130 million. How much more can you take?
Well, this is a plan that will allow us to deliver at least as good a service as we currently do, offer at least as good protection as we currently do. The consequences, and that's why it's important that it's in the public domain, is that we will have to work differently and that people will see us working differently.
OK, Chief Constable Chris Sims, thank you.
Thank you.
MPs have criticised a worrying